So we are over a quarter of the way through. See, this is what I'm saying. We are over a quarter of the way through the season. 30% is approximately where we're at. Not 33. It's basically a third. And we only know really a couple of things. We know that the Warriors are good, like really good. We know that the Suns are good. We know that the Bucks probably in the playoffs are good. We know that the Blazers are dead. They are dead, like dead. Rest in peace to the Portland Trail Blazers franchise. We know that Orlando stays dead. And we really, truthfully, don't know much else. Like, I am very confused, especially given what I watched on Wednesday night. That was a doozy. In some ways, I think that this is good. Like, it highlights the parity of the league. And parity is what Adam Silver and the rest of the suits want. Like, a lot of chaos on any given night. You're not really sure what's going to happen. Detroit, for example, almost beat the Wizards last night. And the Wizards were number 1 in the East for a long period of time. Like, very excitable franchise right now. A lot of pieces. Now wondering, as they're in free fall, what is going to happen with Bradley Beal. And he's putting out some cryptic interviews that are making Washington, D.C.ists lose their mind. It's hard to figure out what's going on right now. If you're a gambler in the NBA, it's even worse. 25 games in the season, normally we have some semblance of who everyone is. Like, I think this time last year we knew that the Suns were good. There's nobody who has risen to the point where you're like, oh, I'm really surprised. This team is a for real threat. Like, same teams that were good last year in terms of elite status, elite contending status outside of the Warriors, but they had a little blip. The Warriors weren't good last year, but they've been good, so it's kind of like they just picked up where they let off now that Klay's coming back and Draymond isn't washed anymore. So I was thinking about it. This is kind of how it came up, is just take this last Wednesday, for example. There were 13 games on Wednesday. And I'm going to break down the results into categories and break it down for you into highly surprising, moderately surprising, and not surprising outcomes. And let me just say this. The results of this little experiment that I had, very surprising. Very surprising. All right. There were 13 games last night, like I said, on Wednesday. 8 of those were highly surprising outcomes. 2 of those were moderately surprising outcomes, and 3 were not surprising. So if you were a betting person and you bet the whole board like I could have done, but I did not do, you probably would have gone 3-10. Like, you probably would be not listening to this podcast because you've had to trade in your smartphone for something else. Like, okay, let's go through them. So you don't even know what this episode is about because you don't even have access to it. All right, so Chicago takes on Cleveland, right? Chicago is missing DeMar DeRozan and Alex Caruso, but they're playing Cleveland. They're 3-point dogs in Cleveland. Highly suspect line. Final score, Cleveland 115 to Chicago's 92. So they blew out Cleveland by almost 20 points. At home, Cleveland mollywopped. The Cleveland Cavaliers mollywopped an elite team, Chicago Bulls. I would say that's highly surprising. Then, Charlotte Hornets at home against Philly, just played them 2 games ago. I think they closed as 6-point dogs. Final score, 110 Philly, Hornets 106. I think that's probably the least surprising outcome. Like, I could have gone either direction. I probably, if I was going to bet this game, was going to bet at the Hornets. I thought the Hornets could win this game outright. Kelly Oubre just will not die. He just continues to keep chucking, continue to make threes. Gordon Hayward continue to make threes. Doesn't matter that LaMelo's not there, folks. Doesn't matter that Terry Rozier's not there. Somehow, some way, Hornets just can keep stinging. They just keep putting their little Hornet stinger in you. All right. So I would call that not surprising, but pretty surprising, I guess, in the grand scheme of things, given that there's no LaMelo Ball and no fucking Terry Rozier. All right, so Detroit Pistons, worst team in the league. Number 1 draft pick overall, getting Cade Cunningham. Washington Wizards at one point, number 1 seed in the East. They go to Detroit, to the crib. They are 5-point favorites, closing line. You're like, this is a strange number. 5 points? I think that could be 8, 9-point favorites, mostly. No. This game was a dogfight. Detroit was up the entire game. Let me just give you a little piece of insight. At halftime, Detroit was 2.5-point favorites. So Washington won outright, but it took some mustering of strength and a lot of Kyle Kuzma threes and a lot of cursing out the crowd in his home floor because he's from Detroit. Washington 119, Detroit 116 in overtime. I would consider that highly surprising. Knicks go into Indiana as 1.5-point dogs. Basically a pick'em. You think this thing could go either way. Probably Vegas teasing you, enticing you into taking the Knicks because the Knicks have been relatively good over the last 12 months. Indiana has been a dumpster fire. There's literally new articles coming out every day saying that they're dedicated to what? Rebuilding. Okay. So, end of the score. Indiana 122, Knicks 102. Blew them out by 20. I would consider that highly surprising. Why is Fournier so bad? I don't know. He normally is very inconsistent. That's what he is. I thought he was going to be doing better, and this is what he said. I thought I was doing better, to be honest, before those 2 games. I'm not going to tell you the name of the restaurant, but I had a terrible steak in San Antonio. I've been fighting food poisoning. I can't move. Okay, Evan Fournier. And also, can we stop just sullying San Antonio for no reason? They are the little brother that everyone shits on. I think I said one day that I went to San Antonio for an event, and I went and saw the Spurs. I was there for the Final Four and got attacked by fire ants outside the arena, and that was the most action I saw in San Antonio. I said that's true. I mean, it's true. Bad steak in San Antonio, Evan Fournier, please. You're French. You should be able to handle a little raw, bad beef. You know what I'm saying? All right, so this is a game that got stuck into my craw. Milwaukee was a 6-point favorite on the road. Miami is missing Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and Caleb Martin is highly doubtful. Caleb Martin is a nobody. You don't even need to worry about Caleb Martin being highly doubtful. So Caleb Martin actually plays in that game. Line is still 6. Milwaukee's fully healthy. They've got Chris Middleton. They've got Drew Holiday. They've got Giannis. They've got no Brook Lopez, but he's going to be out for the rest of the season most likely. Okay. Caleb Martin puts up 28 fucking points against Milwaukee. Milwaukee looks trash. They get out. Heat gets out to a 9-2 start. This game was over before it started. End it. Wash it out. Take that little bet slip. Throw it into the trash. Pay your bookie or pay BetMGM. Whoever you're betting with. And that's night-night sleep mask. I would say Miami 113 to Milwaukee 104 is a highly surprising outcome. Oklahoma City Thunder goes to Toronto. They are 8-point dogs. They beat Toronto by 1 in Toronto. I would consider that to be a surprise. OKC is not a good team. No. Toronto's up and down. Who knows with these two? I have no idea. Also, OKC scoring 110 points, I would consider that very surprising. This is a team that regularly scores in the 90s. All right, Brooklyn goes to Houston. Brooklyn Nets. They're a wagon, right? They've got KD. They've got Harden. They've got LaMarcus Aldridge in a new resurgence. They sit out KD. They sit out LaMarcus Aldridge. And they are, I believe, 3-point favorites on the road to Houston. Very suspect line. Extremely suspect. Houston blows them out 114-104. I would consider that extremely surprising. Under no circumstance should that ever happen. Doesn't matter who's playing for the Nets. Have some fucking pride, Steve Nash. Put Kevin Durant in. If you're losing to Houston, you can't just be dropping L's to the Houston Rockets just because it's a load management game. We move on. Dallas, coming off of a tough loss to the Brooklyn Nets on a back-to-back, goes to Memphis. Memphis had just blown the doors off of Miami. Dallas beats Memphis 104-98. Dallas came in losing 5 of 6 and 8 of 10 against Memphis on the roll. So, of course, they beat up on Memphis on their home court. I would consider that moderately a surprise. Minnesota's at home against Utah. Minnesota has played Utah very tough. They beat Utah twice, once at home and once on the road last year. This is a team that fights Utah hard. Utah has been a wagon against the spread. Utah beats Minnesota 136-104. Timberwolves on a roll, getting 8.5 points at home. You're like, yeah, I'll take the Timberwolves at home. Spot me 9. I love that. They beat the Jazz twice. Love that. Karl Anthony Towns back? Yes, please. No. They got blown out. It was so surprising that they literally were surprised because they were still talking shit after losing by 30. They were like, you had Patrick Beverley being like, Rudy Gobert's trash. I don't even know why he's a DPOY. Like, this guy won't even guard our best guy. It's like, hey, by the way, you just lost by 30. Maybe shut your mouth. Like, Aunt Edward says, hey, we don't even fear Rudy Gobert. I don't care. When I go to the rim, Rudy Gobert, not a problem. You just lost by 30. That's how surprising it is. They don't even remember that they lost by 30. Denver beats New Orleans in OT. Not super surprising. I would say that's the one game that's like, it was an OT, though. It was an OT. New Orleans is hot, quote unquote. Denver hasn't been great. This is a team, 2 teams that are in a pillow fight of mediocrity. So, okay. Orlando goes to Sacramento. I believe Orlando was a 8-point dog. That's a little bit of a sus line to me. Sacramento puts up 142 points on Orlando. 142-130. That is, if you're up on totals, 272. Quite a bit higher than the closing line, which I believe is around 221. 272. I would consider that highly surprising. Clips skated by Boston at home. Not surprising. Golden State. Steph's on a heater. Steph's trying to get the record for most threes ever in history. Also trying to break Klay Thompson's record. No CJ McCollum. No Damian Lillard. No LaSir Little, they say, who ended up actually playing because the league is suspect. Okay, so you've got nobody. Who's going to be able to defend Steph? No one. They should be able to beat Portland very easily. They should be able to beat Portland by 25 at home at the Chase Center. Steph, looking for that record? No, they only beat us by 10, and at one point it was a 4-point game in the fourth quarter. I would consider that to be ridiculously surprising. So what does that all mean to me? Like, that night encapsulates everything I need to know 30% into the season, which is I don't know anything at all. I would have gone 3-10 on that night. 3-10. Outcomes don't make no sense. Like, it's probably a good time to take stock of what I would consider one of the strangest seasons of all time. Since I was a little girl, I watched basketball since I was 6 with my mom as a Portland Trailblazer fan. And this is, I don't have a feel for who anyone is. Like, even props that are easier to bet in basketball than any other sport are so up in the air. Like, okay, here's a good example. Steph Curry, his prop for threes, it was over 5.5 threes. You know he's probably going to shoot 30 of them. That should be a cakewalk. And if he scores 5.5 or over 6 threes, you know he's probably going to score 30. So does he score 30? No. Does he get his 3-point prop? Yes. 6 threes and 22 points. I don't know. I cannot recall a time that this would be. Like Steph Curry not putting up 30 against the Portland Trailblazers. By the way, the Portland Trailblazers are the worst defense in the league, so I have no idea how they held Steph to 22. No idea. And then out east, I really cannot recall a time out east when there hasn't been a team that you could consider a consensus favorite. Like, you're the team. You're the one. There's no wagon. Like, take the Bulls, for example. They've been hot, even without DeMar and Caruso. But then they got beat by 25 of the Cleveland Cavaliers last night. Bucks rattled off 8 of 10. They're fully healthy, playing an unmanned Miami team who just got their asses kicked by Memphis without Ja Morant. And they lose by, I want to say, 9 or 10, but they were 6-point dogs. You have about 3 elite, quote-unquote, elite teams out east. You've got the Nets, you've got the Bulls, you've got the Bucks. I'm not saying there won't be other teams, but I think these are the 3 teams right now that you can actually say are good. But they've all shown significant weaknesses. You've got the Nets, right? Nets can't win without KD. Like, that's where they're at right now. They've got Harden, but they can't win with Harden alone. Who knows if Kyrie Irving is ever going to be putting on a Nets uniform ever again. Like, maybe they can down the road, but they can't even beat Houston without KD. What do you think they're going to do in the East in the playoffs if KD goes down? Absolutely nothing. This team is ripe for a letdown. I know that they were very close to going to the Eastern Conference Finals, but they didn't. They were a shoe print away But it didn't. Like, without Kevin Durant, this team is nothing. Blake hasn't been good. LaMarcus Aldridge is okay. But Nick Claxton is a liability. He needs to fucking go. This man almost lost them the game against the Dallas Mavericks. He bricked 2 free throws in a row, which we already knew. Everyone on the planet watching that game knew he was going to miss them both. That's how bad he is. He is like peyote out there. He is peyote in life form, just doing all kinds of things you cannot expect. Trust levels in the Nets are on suspect level. Sus. Bulls, they're not deep enough. They're not. They're not deep enough to be able to score at the pace that they can score at when they're fully healthy, nor they're big enough to handle a team like Cleveland when they don't have a guy like, say, a DeMar DeRozan or an Alex Caruso making the game even more messy. The Cleveland Cavaliers had 8 blocks on Wednesday. 8 blocks? Evan Mobley himself had 5. This is a rookie giving you 5 blocks. The only way that this team has success, in my opinion, is if they stay fully healthy and they get lucky and they get home court. But they're fun. They're fun. Bucks. So you could throw out the first 10 games because they weren't healthy. Everybody's gone. Chris Middleton's out. Drew Holiday's out. Dante's still out. Brook Lopez is out. Giannis is out. Like in and out, like whack-a-mole for the injuries. And now, okay, they're in the swing of things, but you can't lose to the Miami Heat in that fashion. So you may say to yourself, like, what is this team? Do they have to rely on Giannis? What happens if Chris Middleton goes cold? What happens if Drew Holiday goes cold? No. You're not going to get me with that again, Bulls. Like, you're not going to get me looking silly 30 games into the season like I did last year, 11 games in the season. This team's going to the finals again. They are. Doesn't matter. It does not matter what they do right now. This is the anti-Budenholzer blueprint. Budenholzer normally gets you 60 wins, gives you a ton of hope, and then allows your hope to basically disintegrate into your hands like sand. Like all of a sudden, like a windstorm in sand, you have nothing. You think you have something, and then you have nothing. You're like, you have a longer period of happiness because you're like, ooh, 60 wins, number 1 team in the East. We have the highest percentage to win it all by ESPN.com. And then the analytics say one thing, and then reality says another. This is not that. This is a longer period of pain and frustration for a bigger payoff. You're going to get back to the finals, but it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be a bumpy ride. Who knows if Dante's coming back? What's happening with Brook? Probably nothing. You're probably going to have to make a trade at the deadline. So, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, can't get fooled again. Can't get fooled again. This team's going to the finals again. It is. They are better. We saw what they did in the finals. They got better and better and better, and Giannis is someone I am not fucking against. I am going to consistently root for. Because if you bet against Giannis and then he becomes Damian Lillard, peak Damian Lillard at the free throw line in game 6, I don't even know what to say. You've got Budenholzer out here just basically winning Coach of the Year without doing a goddamn thing. Like, Giannis is going to continue to bring this team to the promised land. Drew Holiday has clamps. Chris Middleton in clutch time can hit shot after shot after shot. I don't care. This is a team I trust.